Hello, everyone. Most of you utilize my channel for the videos that I've made regarding sociological concepts. I'm a sociology professor and I also teach criminology. And when I went online back in 2020, when we went remote during the pandemic, I had to develop a YouTube channel to teach my students. But I'd like to do this video today to share with you something that's very exciting that's going to happen tomorrow on January 21st, 2025. Besides it being my birthday, my new book is coming out. Many of you may not know that I am a writer and a researcher as well as a sociologist. And I've written two books already. The first book that I wrote was called You're Dead, So What? Media Police and the Invisibility of Black Women as Victims of Homicide. This book was published in 2015 through Michigan State University Press. And you can find this book on Amazon, obviously, or you can order it directly from Michigan State University Press. Your local library may have a copy, and you can also get it if you're in Michigan at Paper Trail Bookstore in Royal Oak on South Washington Avenue. But this was my first book. And in this book, I covered the murders of Black women and girls and how media did not give them the same attention that they would give to white women. They call that term missing white woman syndrome. So I covered that in this book. Also, in this book, in the prologue, I talk about a very personal case of a friend of mine from Murray Wright High School, who was murdered in 1984, January 24th, 1984. Michelle Kimberly Jackson was raped and murdered after being kidnapped from a bus stop in the city of Detroit. And her body was found the next day by her family. So in the prologue, I talk about meeting with Michelle's family to get more information about Michelle's case. Because when Michelle was murdered back in 1984, one of the things I noticed is that her case did not get a lot of attention, and it upset me. But I had been reading newspapers for many, many years. And since I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I always read about homicides. And even at that young age, I could tell that media was not giving Black victims the same amount of attention that they were giving white victims. I grew up in the 1970s. So during the 1970s, there was a series of killings in the state of Michigan called the Oakland County Child Murders. And six children, was it four or six? It was four, I believe. Three boys, one girl, were all killed during the 1970s. And to this day, those cases are cold cases. They were never solved. But there was an extreme amount of attention, an inordinate amount of attention that went on these cases. There were Black children being murdered also in the city of Detroit, and those cases got very little attention. So I noticed this from the time I was very young. So when I wrote You're Dead, So What? I wanted to talk a little bit about Michelle's case. At the time that I wrote that book, Michelle's case had been 35 years a cold case. It had not been solved in 35 years. As a matter of fact, an innocent man went to prison. His name was Eddie Joe Lloyd, and he was coerced into confessing to a murder he did not commit. And he served almost 18 years in prison for Michelle's murder. At the time that I wrote this book, I could only dream that her case would be solved. But lo and behold, after the book came out, the family put pressure on Detroit police. They reopened the case and they solved it. And in 2019, a man named Kenneth Dupree was convicted of her murder. He was 73 years old at the time he was caught in 2019. So he's serving 50 years in prison. And obviously he'll die there. But this book was a catalyst to getting her case solved. It turns out that Kenneth Dupree confessed to detectives that he had killed 7 other women. And when I started doing research for my second book, the only person that would confirm that he said he killed 7 other women was the detective that got his actual confession. But the Wayne County prosecutor and the Wayne County prosecuting office detective told me they couldn't comment on an ongoing investigation. But the detective who got his confession told me, yes, in fact, he did confess to 7 killings, and I believe he killed more than that. So I noticed, even in doing research for my first book, that there was a pernicious pattern of young Black women and girls, or Black women and girls in general, being murdered, and oftentimes not the only victim of these men who killed them. In some cases, these women were victims of serial murders, and police were not launching an aggressive or vigorous enough investigation to solve those cases. And that led me to writing this book. This is the book that's coming out tomorrow, January 21st. It is called No Human Involved: The Serial Murder of Black Women and Girls and the Deadly Cost of Police Indifference. It's published by Beacon Press and distributed by Penguin Random House. It's already gotten some solid reviews and some great blurbs on the back. But this book is very important. In it, I cover 6 different cases of serial murder from 1970s Boston all the way through 2000s, the year 2019 or 20 in the city of Detroit. Okay, so there are a lot of cases that are covered here. One in Cleveland, one in Los Angeles. You may have heard of Lonnie Franklin Jr., who was known as the Grim Sleeper. Anthony Sowell in Cleveland, Ohio, who killed women and buried them in his home on Imperial Avenue. There was a series of killings in East Charlotte, North Carolina, that were known as the Taco Bell slayings. But in each one of these cases, Black women were victims of homicide. They were victims of serial murder. Police first did not want to declare that these killings were the work of a serial killer, and it was a very lackluster investigation that put women in harm's way. What is very unsettling about the fact that men who kill Black women and are not aggressively pursued by law enforcement, nor are these cases covered to the degree that white victims are covered by the media, these men who kill women have targeted Black women, especially those involved in drug addiction and sex work, as easy prey. So when police are not seriously investigating these crimes, what happens is these men are emboldened to target that particular vulnerable group for homicide. And that's what the book is about. So you can find this book. You'll be able to find it, obviously, on Amazon, but I'm a book lover. So I would love for you to go to a brick and mortar store. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, bookstores in various cities around the country. Just inquire about this book. If they don't have it in stock and you order through them, that will make them stock the book there. But if you're in Michigan, Literati in Ann Arbor has it. Tollvine Books in Berkeley, Paper Trail Books in Rural Local have it. Books A Million in Beverly Hills, Southfield area of Michigan. Let me see. Source bookstores on Cass Avenue down on Wayne State campus. So, and BookBeat on Greenfield in Oak Park. So there are a number of bookstores in Michigan, but you can get it in other cities as well. Okay, so it's called No Human Involved: The Serial Murder of Black Women and Girls and the Deadly Cost of Police Indifference. It's a difficult book to read emotionally, but it's a very important work. And if you like history, books on race and gender, and true crime, this is the book for you. So do me a favor, a big favor for my birthday. Go out, buy the book. You can reach me by email through clneely@oaklandcc.edu. That's my school email. So if you want to read the book and give me some feedback or ask some questions, you can find me there. Thanks, everybody. Take care.